But for this first one, this is another one that if you downloaded the fascial line assessment book, you'll recognize this one. This is our standard half kneeling spiral stretch. We do have a little bit of a new inclusion here in the back here, just propping that back foot up on a med ball. Reason for that is to kind of give us an opportunity to create more lengthening through the flexor and the quad group. So again, that concept of, creating reciprocating length. But for this, Kai's going to start mobility stick in the simulated front rack position. We'll get our inhale, and then she's going to rotate and press towards that front leg. And as she goes into that overhead rotation and reach, we're getting concurrent foot action down into the med ball on the back leg. For this one, most people tend to feel this kind of through the T-spine, a little bit of an ab stretch. For some people, myself included, I'll get a little bit of adductor in this when we go into that overhead reach position. But the theme that you'll recognize here throughout these last couple of videos, it's going to really touch people differently depending on who they are, what they do. Adding in this med ball in the back here, maybe might accentuate some of the flexor and the front line stretch through the quad. But for this one, we just want to create good, big, open patterns here and have that reciprocating lengthening. Number 2 here, this is one of the few movements that we have in all of these different fascial line stretch series, where this one is actually a little bit more isolated, and we're really trying to specifically work on this back hip that's up on the block. Reason for that is hip internal and external rotation are fundamental to the spiral line, particularly hip internal rotation. And that's something that it kind of sucks for a lot of people. So we want to make sure that we are touching on that and addressing that. So for this, what we'll notice with Kai, front knee, front foot, driving down into the ground, terminal stability through the opposite hand, and then we're going to kind of isolate this left leg here. So she's going to start by driving that left knee down, lifting this back foot off. As you can see, this is going to be a small range of motion for virtually everybody. This isn't something that's going to be, coming up too high, and then we're going to oppose that action by lifting the knee, driving the heel down on that back leg. Reset, rebreathe, internal rotation, and external rotation. And we'll go one more time here. On this one, because this is, something that's difficult for a lot of people, myself included, this is one where we will see some compensatory patterns. People will try to kind of shift through the ribs or the torso to reposition the pelvis. So even if it's a small abbreviated range of motion, that's perfectly fine. We want to make sure we keep good joint angles elsewhere. Beautiful. Number 3 here, we have a kind of a modified adductor position here. So in that half kneeling position, but obviously with the leg externally rotated here. And then Kai's going to start with the PVC pipe across her back here. So for this one, she'll initiate through her breath, and then we're going to kind of just lean into that front leg or that left leg here and add an overhead reach to it. She'll hit her terminal range at exhale, rebreathe, and then work it back. So for this one, this is obviously going to be, kind of emphasizing or highlighting the adductor here. For some people, we'll get equal amount of stretch on this down leg, on the right leg, as we do on the left. That's one that kind of, changes depending on who the person is. But the reason why we want to have her in this kind of open position here is to really work on the tensegrity coupling or aspects of the pelvic cavity. Also should note here, the reason for the plates, bringing the foot away from the floor, getting into a little bit of a deeper hip flex position here. So just again, adding a little bit of element to the stretch. And the 4th one for this series here, we're going to work a frog squat into kind of a modified world's greatest stretch here. So another combination movement. We're going to get a lot of different things going here, but as Kai gets into the starting position here, we're going to initiate this, of course, with our breath, but then we're going to kind of sit back into that squatting position. So here we're getting a lot of internal rotation, some flexion, and then she'll open up into that world's greatest position and then reach up and away, getting long through the arms. So driving that right hand down, good pressure through the hand, staying long from fingertip to fingertip. Some modifiers on this one, if we have anybody who has hip capsule issues, impingements, maybe coming off of an adductor groin injury. We may want to do this with like having our knees down on the ground as opposed to being hovering here. Again, we want to keep in mind that these should all be stretch and mobility based movements. We don't want to have too much strain. For Kai, obviously this isn't an issue. So we've got everything off of the ground here. That forward step, you don't necessarily want to think like as far as you can possibly go. Get somewhere that strains but is still reasonably comfortable, and you can still maintain the position on the reach pattern wherever that foot may be.